Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the Reptile Barn. I have a clutch here I'm going to cut. And I'm also going to discuss, while I do this, a couple of thoughts I've had about breeding ball pythons. So, before I get into this, Piper is a double het ultramel pied. Temujin is a sunset. Okay? So everything's going to be het sunset. And then some of them will also be het pied or het ultramel, or hopefully both. Because then we can have triple hets. Okay? Oops, sorry, hit the camera there. This is a 7-egg clutch. I think all of them are healthy. Several of these babies are already coming out. So these are all going to look like normals. Okay? But they are not normals. These are going to be, all of them are het sunset. And then there's going to be, hopefully, some het ultramels and het pieds in there as well. So I'm going to be doing this clutch a little differently when I set them up. I will check their gender, of course, like I always do. And then I will put them all in their own individual tub right off the bat. For the simple reason that I want to know whose shed skin is whose. Because we live in an era where you can take those shed skins. I'm being real careful because his tail tip is right there. I don't want to accidentally snip him. I'll be able to send those shed skins into Rare Genetics Inc. There he is, looking perfect. And test for het ultramel and het pied. And I think that's pretty fantastic. So I will know immediately if any of these are triple hets. So I think that is just so cool. It's a little pricey, of course, like any, I consider high-end service is, when it comes to technology especially, but totally worth it. I don't see his head, but he looks perfect. It looks like a good amount of moisture in there. Looks great. So, that being said, I just wanted to mention, if I could start all over, knowing what I know now, and I don't say this out of like, oh my gosh, I'm so angry that I didn't do this correctly or anything like that. This isn't really a true like regret. Obviously, we learned what we learned because of how we did it. But if I knew what I know now, when I first started breeding ball pythons, there's a few things I would have done differently. I was highly interested in double recessive projects. Still am. But what I did was I purchased single gene animals of various recessives, desert ghost, piebalds, ultramels, etc., and I bred them together to produce double hets. This is very common. It's not a strange thing to do. However, what I would do differently, there's two things really. First, and this is very simple, I would have purchased animals that were carrying some incomplete dominant genes as well. I would not have only gotten, a single gene desert ghost or a single gene ultramel. I would have gotten animals with some incomplete dominant genes on top, so that as I'm going through building that project, that cute little face, I have some directions I can go in. I have some more interesting things to mix in. So what's going to happen is, like, I have my ultramel pieds visuals, right, that we've produced. If I want to now add in cinnamon or orange dream or yellow belly or whatever the case may be, I'm going to have to go back to square one and produce more double hets. I'm going to have to take my double visual and breed it into whatever genes I want to add to the project. Whereas if I had had a yellow belly ultramel and a orange dream pied right from the get-go, I could have started my very first ultramel pied, like double visual, could have had some of those genes in it already. And it wouldn't have added terribly much to the price. Back in the day, a yellow belly pied was a little more than a regular pied, but not terribly so. and it would have really helped me out down the road, right? So, oh well, I know that now. But I built most of my projects that way. So, I focused heavily on recessives, but I just didn't think about that until it was far, far too late, and I was already a couple steps into each project. So now I feel like I'm a little behind in each of those projects compared to where I could have been, but that's okay. And I guess the only other thing I might do differently is I would pick fewer total projects to work on. I don't have a facility or the means to breed and produce, 400 clutches of ball pythons every year. So I should have been more picky and choosy about which projects I wanted to pursue so that I could really make progress in those projects. What I mean is, if I am able to produce, 15 clutches in a year, all right, these all look perfect, by the way. All these babies look super healthy. From what I can see, the eggs are in great shape, so I'm very happy with these guys. But anyway, it would have been really nice if I could have, instead of producing 15 clutches all in different projects, if I was producing like 5 clutches in 3 separate projects, because I could have made a ton of progress. I could have become known as, a really excellent tri-stripe breeder or a really excellent ultramel breeder who just made some ultramel projects or some tri-stripe projects that were cutting edge, trying things that were new and hadn't been thought of yet to really stand out as a business, but also just plain and simple in order to arrive at some results sooner. If I'm just breeding one ultramel to one pied and I'm raising up double hets from that, and then years later I'm breeding those back together, well, I'm going to have to do the whole thing over again to add more genes into that. Whereas if at the very beginning I was breeding, say I had 2 or 3 males and 5 females just in the ultramel pied project, I could have introduced all sorts of other genes right from the get-go. And at this point where I am now, where I've produced exactly 2 ultramel pieds and none of them have any other genes in them, I could have produced 20 ultramel pieds by now with a whole multitude of other genes in them, and I would be so much further along that project than I am currently. Now, I don't say this as a big regret video at all. I've loved what I've done so far. I'm happy with my progress. But just, hindsight is 2020. Well, I'm going to get these guys back in the incubator. They look great. This little guy's already coming out to explore. I'm sure he's going to suck his head back in here shortly, but I'll let them go back and rest. And here, probably by tomorrow, they'll start crawling out of the eggs. I believe today for this clutch is day 56, so they went totally full term for us. I know the last video I was just talking about how a lot of my clutches pip earlier than normal, but this one was right on the average. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know they don't look really unique and special for a ball python, but triple het ultramel pied sunsets could make some pretty cool stuff. So that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, we're the Reptile Barn.